Thanks. I love all the energy here. This is awesome. I represent the district just south of here. I don't represent Alexandria, but I represent, if you just go over the city line, the Mount Vernon part of Fairfax County. And of course, my most famous constituent is the founder of our country, George Washington. And George Washington, he actually lost his first race for the House of Burgesses. And then he learned his lesson. And in his second race, instead of just running, he actually brought out 144 gallons of rum, punch, hard cider, and beer, and handed it out to every voter. And in that election, there was, I think, about 320 voters. So that was about 64 ounces of liquor per voter, which is how they used to do it back in that time. And now here we are today. We don't give out, fifths of liquor to every voter, but we do something else, and that's why you guys are here trying to fix that, right? It's a problem that's been going on for a long time. And Virginia is kind of weird compared to most other states, right? Our legislative elections are not in the federal cycle. So we run our legislative, we call the presidential year the on year, the Senate year the off year, the U.S. Senate / congressional year the off year, the when we have a federal election with no U.S. Senate or no congressional, the off year, and then the governor's race is the off year, and we're four offs. So, but because of that, the fact that we run separate from the federal cycle, and we also basically have zero limits on either corporate contributions or individual contributions. A lot of people sort of see Virginia as the Wild West, and we also turn into this like test tube for policy and communications and strategy and stuff, because our elections are either right before the presidential race or right after the presidential race, and somebody's either trying to send a message about what's about to happen or what just happened. And so we end up having a lot of money come into Virginia because of those different factors. And just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, in our last Senate, our state Senate where I serve, we run once every 4 years. So last year, when we were trying to figure out what kind of budget we needed to have to run, in 2019 we spent, I think it was about $19 million over 40, we have 40 seats, but the control is fought over only maybe about 5 to 7 races, something like that. But we raised and spent about $19 million in the Democrats did collectively. Overall, I think it was, about $32 million, something like that. Anyways, we thought we were going to this year have to spend closer to 40. Guess what we did spend? We ended up raising and spending $66 million in the 2023 cycle. The Republicans spent about $46 million. So it was $112 million that were spent for the state legislature, okay? The hottest race spent about $12 million, over 87,000 votes. That's about $137 a vote. The hottest congressional race in Virginia was Elaine Luria, a little bit before that. In her race, they spent only $2 million more than that, okay? So we're fighting over $18,000 jobs. That's what I get paid to be in the state Senate, $18,000 bucks. And this is the kind of money that's getting thrown around. And why is that? It's because the amount of money that's at issue in the decisions that we make in our state of 8.5 million people every year, right? And just to give you an idea also, the governor, he had 107 donations for over $100,000 each. He had 7 donations for $1 million each. And a lot of that was spent against us in our races. So, to me, the best way to fix this is what you all are advocating for, is this constitutional amendment. I know my friend Nancy Morgan here, and I've had many arguments about how to get this done in Virginia. But in Virginia, we have wide open disclosure, and there's some problems with our disclosure, no question about that. But you can see where the money's coming from. People write these big checks, you can see, instead of it being hidden in the shadows as much, right? Whereas if you have all these caps and limits and stuff, it's a lot harder to see. I've talked to people in some other states about what caps and limits do, and what happens, they tell me, is that they might only be able to raise money at $1,000 per donation or $500 or whatever, but then they go to these third-party organizations who can raise big piles of money and then control their campaign and election strategy. So basically, the big money just controls the operation in a different way, right? And so, to me, the only real way to really fix this is to empower the states and Congress, obviously, to enact some real limits on not just people but also corporations, because my neighbor, by the way, Sam Alito lives right down the street too. They say that corporations are people too. So, this constitutional amendment to me is really the only way we're going to be able to fix this problem. I've talked to lots of people about congressmen and people in other legislatures, and there's just no way around it. The way I see it is that, the moneyed interests out there sort of have a certain amount of money they want to put into a cycle, and say it's like having a big drum of water on the top of a mountain. They're going to pour it off the mountain. It's going to get down the river one way or the other. The question is how it's going to get in there, whether you're going to be able to see it or not. And money works the same way in the political process, from what I've seen. And you all are here trying to fix that, and I applaud you for that, because it's really desperately needed. So, I think Virginia will be there when the constitutional amendment gets sent to us. I think everybody who serves realizes it's a problem. None of us like running around begging for money and begging for bigger and bigger checks, as the case is where I serve. That's not what we signed up to do. We signed up to make good laws, and money exerts pressure on the process in a way that none of us really like. And so you guys are doing the Lord's work, what you're trying to do. So I don't know if that's for me or not, but I saw a sign said I was almost done. So, but anyways, thank you for being here and for fighting for what you're fighting for. We'll stand with you in Virginia when the time comes. So thank you for being here.